I'd like to call the Livingston County Board meeting to order, meeting on Thursday, August 17th. We'll start with the invocation by Pastor Jan Ambrose, please.
Let's bow our heads for prayer. In Psalms 100 it is written, "Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord, he is God. It is he that hath made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him and bless his holy name. For the Lord is good, his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth to all generations." We thank you, Father God, that you show us your way in all things. We thank you that you have ordained civil law and set it according to your divine order. Clearly light your way tonight for our faithful board of directors to carry out your plan. In Jesus, your Son's mighty name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Ambrose. We'll now have a Pledge of Allegiance led by Linda Ambrose.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we have roll call, please, Christy?
Fiedi,
Here.
Haig,
Here.
Fair,
Present.
Manker,
Present.
Erickman,
Here.
Ambrose,
Here.
Fannin,
Here.
Myers,
Here.
Runyon,
Here.
Mays, Weller, Bidstuff,
Here.
Blackard,
Present.
Herring,
Here.
Welch,
Present.
Carly,
Present.
Lovell,
Present.
and Ritter.
Present.
Now we'll move to approval of the agenda. I would like to make two changes to the agenda. First of all, I'm going to move public comment to G, which will come after approval of the minutes. And secondly, we will have an additional presentation. It will be a presentation, commendation of safety awards by the sheriff, and the one that may be on your agenda is A will be B, tire recycling. So can I,
Chairman Carly,
yes,
could I also ask on the consent agenda to vote separately on the Regional Planning Commission? Rather than just...
well, you can ask. Yeah. If we do, we're gonna have to move it to elections, rules, election regulation. Is that what you want to do?
I guess so.
We can do that.
Okay.
No problem. So we'll make that change also. We'll move B from the appointments to the rules and regulations, and we'll vote on it at that point in time.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, as amended.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Ritter and second by Welch. Is that correct? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I need approval of the minutes. If anybody's reviewed those. Moved by Blackard, second by Ehring. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move to public comment. Before public comment, I want to remind everybody we're going to use the standing rules of this board. Each individual will have a maximum of 3 minutes. There'll be a 30-minute total time frame for public comment. There are several people here tonight. Obviously, it's a situation where there's a couple sides to what we're going to be discussing tonight, likely. I want everybody to be cordial and respectful, please, and please abide by the rules of the board. So that being said, when you come up, there'll be a timer for you, and you'll see the time frame up above, so you know how much time you have. So we can proceed with public comment. So if anybody wants to speak, please come up to the podium, give your name and address, please, and then go ahead and speak.
Good evening, my name is Randy Pagel. I live at 418 East Hamilton Street in Odell. I grew up in Dwight and I have lived in Odell since 2005. I am a school board member at the Odell Grade School District 435, and I'm here tonight in an official capacity to represent our district pertaining to the Prairie Dock Solar Farm. As a school district, it is not our intention to lobby either for or against the proposed Prairie Dock Solar Farm. All we would like to do is confirm to the county that the creation of the solar farm would have a positive impact on our finances for the district. It is anticipated that the solar farm would add over $500,000 per year to our tax revenue. The anticipated property tax increase would allow our district to add space to our current building. 12 years ago, we completed a $2.3 million addition, but as a result of the evolving nature of education, we now have a need for even more space. While our student population is remaining relatively flat, the needs of that student population are growing immensely. Over the past 3 years, we have added 3 teaching positions to help address the needs of our students. Most of these needs are a direct result of the COVID pandemic. For some districts, 3 added positions might not seem like a lot, but it took us from 17 to 20 teachers, and we're out of classroom space for them. For our district to be able to receive extra tax revenue without us having to go to our current taxpayers would be a win-win. We would receive the added money that we need without raising property taxes on our current residents. As a board, we have been fiscally conservative and responsible with our district assets, and we will continue to do so. Any extra money received from the solar farm would be carefully planned for and budgeted and would be used directly to help the students of our district. Again, we are not asking you to vote yes or no on this proposal, but we wanted to let you know how the solar farm could positively impact the finances of our district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Kilgore. I'm here in my role as superintendent for Pontiac Township High School, District 90. Likewise, I would like to say we understand and respect the opponent views on the Prairie Dock Solar Farm project. We too have recently become neighbors of the proposed site with 18 acres in the Cugie, just south of the Cugie area. We, as a school, as a Board of Education and my role as superintendent representing such, have goals to seek alternative funding. Sometimes those come in the form of short-term one-off grants. Sometimes those come in the form of multi-year grants. Very rarely does the opportunity come along for us to find funding for the long-term future that will last, in this case, possibly and projected 40 years. That is a very sustainable opportunity for our district, and annually it would be approximately $514,000 projected if the project comes into full view, full completion. Over a 40-year period, that's $20.5 million. That would be a significant and a consistent and sustainable opportunity for the district that we cannot pass up supporting. We have all kinds of opportunities. The gray hairs upon my head at this moment have come because of the lean years. We live in the state of Illinois, and Illinois does what they do. Springfield isn't always predictable. I have lived through and led the district through very difficult times when we were prorated funding at the state level, and anytime we can sustain the opportunity to weather those storms, as well as seek funding that is not strictly on the local property tax residential owners, that is something that we support. So at this time, I'd just like to say that we support the project of the Prairie Dock Solar Farm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Dixon, Greenmont. Was it genuine or was it lip service? And this is for the audience as well, as every one of us recited the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. We pledged allegiance to the republic for which it stands. What does that mean? We gave that a thought. A republic is a form of government with representatives elected by the people, yet the people remain sovereign, responsible for self, not dependent on government handouts. Genuine or lip service, one nation under God. The Lord says, "Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not lie." Genuine or lip service. Each of these county board members and every elected official that represent us across this country swear an oath. These board members all humbly agree to become public servants to serve us, we the people. They voluntarily ran for election, and they took an oath. And I'm going to paraphrase due to the lack of time. Each county board member, having been elected to be a county board member in and for the county of Livingston and the state of Illinois, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Illinois, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of county board member to the best of my ability. I did not hear anything about statutes. Did anybody else? An oath. An oath is a solemn, just a paraphrase, it's a solemn appeal to God in the presence of men to be held accountable. I'm only trying to hold you elected representatives accountable to what you agreed to. And after all of us recited the pledge, I hope the audience will hold you to the same. The vote tonight is more than just 1,600 acres of solar. In the grand scheme of things, this is taxation without representation. If you'll remember at the founding of this country, the colonies separated from Great Britain due to taxation without representation. That was one of the reasons. How about the redistribution of wealth? Taking money from one group, which would be the taxpayers, to give to another, in this case, solar companies, at the exclusion of all others. This comes in the form of stimulus money and tax credits. Another big picture, how about government control of private business? We see that with the electric companies. These are communist ideologies. Voting for these furthers the communist agenda. This country keeps voting in similar projects like this, we are going to confirm communism is going to rule. We will have to change that Pledge of Allegiance. We will soon be pledging allegiance to the United Socialist States of America and to the communist state collectively without God.
That's your time, Jason.
Knowingly voting for this violates your oath. Was it lip service or was it genuine? Thou
Jason.
shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal.
Jason,
Choose for yourselves
Jason,
today
your time's
which
up.
God you shall serve, our
Jason.
Creator or the state. When the people find they can vote themselves money, that will herald the end of the republic. That's from Benjamin Franklin.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Margaret Amber Cook Sargent. I'm a laborer of Local 996 with work like these large jobs for solar farms, wind farms, the railroad projects. We do a lot of work in Livingston County, and this work is our job security. So I hope that you vote yes and give us another opportunity to work and add income to all the counties that we live in.
Thank you.
My name is Kyle DeLong. I get the privilege to work and live in downtown Pontiac. I have no personal agenda or stake in this project. However, I do have a conscience. Being in business has taught me many things. First and foremost, I'm well aware of the exorbitant tax burdens we face in Illinois. However, I don't remember any tax credits or government subsidies being legislated on my behalf or the behalf of any other person doing business here. I'm a big proponent of limited government, free markets, and private property rights. However, I believe this board was elected to use best judgment and to make decisions to benefit the county now and for many years to come. To speak frankly, voting for this project is a vote for corruption and big government. Though seemingly well-intended, solar panels are the ultimate Trojan horse and defy common sense. To vote against solar panels would make you a good steward of the planet. Wind and solar supply less than 3% of the world's energy despite billions of dollars in subsidies. Solar panels are built of non-renewable materials, and unfathomable amounts of conventional energy are needed to mine, refine, transport, and manufacture solar, all to last a quick 20 to 40 years. Recently, the International Renewable Energy Agency has estimated that by 2050, the waste from retired solar panels will double that of plastics. I know we have a lot of nice people on this board, and I know we are all well-intentioned here, everyone speaking tonight. Truth be told, I believe we're being bullied by the state, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. And at what point do we say enough is enough? If we keep rolling over, they will never stop. I'm not asking you to run to Springfield to start a fight. I'm asking you to sit in your seats and simply vote no. We're stronger together with a unified sheriff, state's attorney, county board, and community standing together. I believe Livingston County can be a leader and inspire other nearby counties to stand beside us. The state has made your chairs relatively uncomfortable, I'm sure, over the last couple of years, but this is the reality that we now face. Let's put our principles over profits, stand up to the bullies, and vote no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Steve Mattingly. I was born and raised here in Pontiac in '78, and I'm representing Local 150. Been an operator for 23 years, and also served 4 years on Rooks Creek, Raymont, District 425 board. So, I'm here to talk about support for CPV Prairie Dock. The solar farm will benefit our entire community. The jobs it will create, including hundreds of union jobs, construction jobs, will be a big deal for us. The workers will be from here and the surrounding area, spending their wages in local businesses. Grocery stores, restaurants, hotels, campgrounds for the duration of the construction. We're usually very generous to local businesses, so I know that that has an impact too. This solar farm also will add 70 million plus being added to the tax base to fund further projects, improve our schools, and support town and county services. The zoning board and ag committee both passed this project of the solar ordinance. I know we can count on the board to follow suit and approve CVC Prairie Dock as an example of the right way to develop here in Livingston County. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Julie Russo, 23301 North 1040 East Road in Cornell. I'd like to address 3 reasons why you cannot approve the Prairie Dock Solar Project. As Jason Dixon just stated, you swore an oath to uphold the Constitution when you became a county board member. The redistribution of wealth is unconstitutional and is a core principle of socialism. If this reason isn't compelling enough, then perhaps you shouldn't be sitting in the seat you now occupy. If you don't understand how this nullifies the property rights argument, then perhaps you should study it. The text message from Micah Fox to John Mackinson is very troubling. The offer of property value protection is an open admission that the developer was aware of the negative impact that solar projects have on property values. Therefore, the conclusions drawn by Cohn-Resnick should be disregarded entirely. The testimony of Dr. Loomis, who talked about the economic impact of the project at the local level, only addressed the jobs that would be added to the labor force. His report did not address the loss of jobs in the agricultural sector. This huge loss of tillable acres will affect not only the people who farm the ground, but also the seed dealers and the companies they represent, the fertilizer companies, implement dealers, those who haul grain during harvest, and the people who process all that grain through our local elevators. Dr. Loomis did not mention the net effect on the local economy. His testimony was inadequate and should be rejected due to its biased nature. Lastly, I believe that no matter how much money is set aside for decommissioning, it's probably not going to be enough. This weighs very heavily on my mind. Like many of you, I have kids and grandkids. The length of these lease agreements is 35 or 40 years. It's likely that the companies we're dealing with today won't be around in 35 or 40 years. It's likely that anyone involved with these projects today will have retired or passed away by then. So who will be held accountable? Who will take responsibility for the removal of the equipment? Our kids and grandkids, that's who. Future generations will no doubt wonder what in the world you were thinking as they stare at the vast solar panel wasteland that was once a vibrant, productive piece of earth, which was bestowed upon us by God and for which we are to be good stewards. If you believe that this land will be returned to its original state, you are naive. Every project like this breeds discontent, pits neighbor against neighbor, and causes unrest. And with each approval, you only encourage more of the same. This is a perfect opportunity to deny an application because you have 3 solid reasons that should ward off any lawsuit from the developer. It's unconstitutional, it violates your oath, property values are negatively affected, and the testimony of Dr. Loomis was biased and not credible. Please bear in mind that if you approve the project, your own constituents could file a lawsuit against you for acting irresponsibly.
Julie, your time's up.
Fear is a reaction.
Julie.
Courage is a decision. Please vote with courage and deny this project. Thank you.
Brandon Sankin, 16774 North 2300 East Road, Pontiac, Illinois. I was born and raised here, and now I farm here with my father and my brothers and brother-in-law. My father and I are both landowners that are involved with the Prairie Dog Solar Project. So I wanted to take just a minute to tell you why we support it. First off, we see it as an opportunity to support ourselves for the next generation of our family farm. For my dad, at some point, he'll have to hang it up farming and the project will provide ongoing income. For me and my wife, this is an opportunity to help prepare the future for our 2 children and for our own eventual retirement. This project will allow us to generate more income from the land, which has several below-average soil types and is one of the wetter pieces of land we own and farm. At the same time, it will also allow us additional income to focus our efforts onto some of our better producing pieces of land to help offset that lack of production. But my reasons for joining this project and endorsing it are more than a monetary return for myself and my family. This project will generate income for all the taxing bodies around it. The township, the county, and specifically the schools. Serving on the Sonneman School District for over 8 years, I witnessed firsthand the impact of a project like this can have on a school district. Sonneman was able to use wind farm money to continue to renovate and innovate education. I know that Odell and Pontiac High Schools could use funds like that to improve their facilities and improve opportunities for our children. I also think there's a great opportunity for the local FFA and environmental classes to study the impact this project will have on the soils and environment, good or bad. There was a professor from ISU that testified about how letting the land lay fallow is going to rejuvenate the soils on this project. I know that's a fact. We've seen it in fence rows. I think the schools can study that process along the way, learn, and I still believe in American innovation. And we've got 30 to 40 years to figure out what we're going to do when this project is up. Renew it and keep going, or decommission it and put it away. And the improvement of that soil and the pattern tiling they're going to do on the property make it likely that when this project is returned to farming for us in the future, it will be a much better piece of land. I know there are other benefits for this project, but I just wanted to point out a couple that really hit home for me and my family. We can improve the use of our land to support ourselves. We can improve the township roads and facilities around us. We can improve the schools my children and others will attend, and in the end we'll get back farmland, which could be better. I think it's a good deal for us and a good deal for our community. So I humbly ask that you do uphold your oath tonight and recommend this project for approval.
Thank you.
My name is Barbara Rowe. I reside in Odell, Illinois. I've lived in Odell for 20 years. I do back this project 100%. I feel it's excellent for our school systems. Odell Grade School definitely could use it, as well as the Pontiac schools. I do back the schools. I feel that the property that the solar farm will be on is some of the poorest farm ground that we have in Livingston County. So I think it should be put there. So I do back it 110%. I wish you would vote yes for this project, and it's good for the schools.
Thank you.
My name is Brad Franklin. I live in Dwight. I'm a member of 996 local union. Have you guys heard about the fable about the traveler, the innkeeper, and the candle maker? It's a fable. It's a story about a traveler comes to a small village, and the money that he spends circles throughout the town. They have mentioned the jobs this project will create. They have not mentioned the people it will benefit. Take my street I live on, for instance. My neighborhood is much like your neighborhood. I share a street with a fellow laborer, as well as a member of the local IBEW lineman, a retired union carpenter, and next to him, a widow of a retired teamster. Right next to me is a 150 operator whose sons have followed in his footsteps with union jobs as well. Jobs like this benefit them, as well as the schools, who all shop and spend their money in the community. There is positives and negatives to every project. Bottom line, we need to wake up and smell the wildfires burning. We are the frog in the pot of water about to boil. The climate is changing, period. Doing nothing and staying the same path that we always have will only fan the flame. As a whole, we strive to build a good life for our families. This solar project will allow us to do that, employing hundreds of local workers with dream jobs, putting food on the tables of hundreds of local families. According to the Economic Impact Study, this project represents an investment of more than $507 million into the community and economic of Livingston County. I do not know how we can, as a community, turn that down. I urge the board to approve this proposal. The jobs are good for our workers, and the larger economic impact is good for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Brad Merrick, 2391 East 24 5th Road, Marseilles. It's a good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the board for letting me speak on the CPV Prairie Dock project. I grew up north of Cornell, and I've been in the trades for over 20 years. I've been around long enough to know when a project is good for everyone, and the solar farm is one of them. This project represents hundreds of jobs during peak construction, plus long-term jobs excuse me, during operation that will last decades. It's a huge win for the area and for the local workers. We all work hard to take care of our families, and it's a blessing when a project puts food on our tables and for everyone else, let alone the hundreds of people that will be working. And it spreads to the community as we all spend our wages at local businesses and in restaurants and in taxes. The figures say that CPV Prairie Dock will add over $70 million to the county tax base, funding capital projects, schools, first responders, and road maintenance. We cannot afford to turn down a good project like this when they come our way. It's good for local labor, and it's good for Livingston County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Rick Tucker. I live on 2400 North Road, a few miles away from this project. I'm here to support the fire district. The money generated in tax revenue for us would instrumentally create better protection for our whole entire district. I've listened to everybody behind me. I didn't have a big old fancy speech wrote up. But for me, if somebody's going to get this project, we should get it. I understand the government side of pushing it, but somebody's got to create the energy. It might as well be going our way as to go to the next county. I heard opposition all these years over windmills. I got windmills built right beside me. They didn't bother me a bit. I look out every morning and figure out which way the winds blow. But solar panels are a different breed, but it's the same thing. It's going to protect our district better by tax revenue. I'm not saying that they're the best thing in the world to do, but it's the project that has to be presented in front of us today, and we have to keep moving on. The government is trying to shut down nuclear energy. We have to come up with a better way of doing this. Is solar the right thing? It's in front of you guys to make that decision. But as far as our fire district, the tax revenue will definitely implement better safety for our district and the neighboring districts around. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mitch Mercer. I live at 21067 East 2300 Road, Odell. I just have one quick question. I'd like to see a show of hands for people that are going to see these every morning when they wake up and when they go to bed. Show of hands all around. As myself. I have 3 young children. We built a new house out there 5 years ago. Reason being is to get up in the morning, watch the sunset, and get up in the morning and look across fields. We are going to see nothing but solar panels, weeds overgrown, nothing that I want my kids to see. I strongly oppose it. I'm sure, don't get me wrong, I agree the schools need the money. I 100% agree with that, as well as the fire departments and everybody else around. But if we did not have a failing government, we would not need the money from solar panels. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Doug Sass, live in Livingston County by Long Point, Illinois. First of all, I want to commend all of you for moving it up so that the people get to speak and let their voice be heard. That's very commendable for all of you that decided to do that. We thank you, and that's how it should be. As I've heard here today, that a redundancy that this is a republic, a representative republic, as you represent us. And the only way that can happen is if you hear from the people first, not after you vote. So thank you for taking heed to that, because we've all been very frustrated with righteous anger when that does not happen. So thank you so much for that, for doing that, moving us up. That's how it should be, and I hope it continues that way. Thank you so much. With that said, you guys know what's going on here. This isn't the first time you've heard us all speak. All I hear here today is by people being able to gain financially here, or by more and more tax revenue going to institutions that shouldn't exist, like the government school systems. And I know many of you will disagree with me, but I've taken the responsibility to educate my own children, raise them, as that's my responsibility, not yours, and not anybody else's with taxpayer money. The financial gain that my father was presented to be able to put 40 acres into this, paying him a very hefty amount of money, $1,650 an acre. If you don't know, the average going rate for good land, for the land, the good ground that we have, is about, cash rent is about $250 an acre. Compare that to $1,650. There's something wrong there. And the biggest issue that I see is the taxes, the subsidies. I have no problem with solar if it's privatized. But when it's on the back of the taxpayers, I have a big, big problem, as we all should. As we've heard here today and many times before, that is socialism. and that should not happen. If it's privatized, then it comes down to looking at all other aspects. If it's not privatized and it's on the back of taxpayers, your fiscal responsibility is to say no. Thank you very much. Godspeed.
Thank you. Okay. Our 30-minute time limit's up. I want to thank the people that came forward to speak and thank everybody for being respectful and cordial during the process. I appreciate that. We're going to move on then to presentations. And first presentation is some commendations of life safety awards by Sheriff Ryan Baum. Sheriff, you'll come forward, please. And Superintendent Draper. Sorry about that, Lisa.
I made her come on. This time I'd like to call Officer Kevin Blair up and Officer Jacob May also, please. On August 8, 2023, Officer Kevin Blair was probationary training officer with Officer Jacob May. At about 11:42 that evening, Officer Blair was conducting routine wellness checks in the booking area. At that time, he noticed that something was not right in holding cell 1. He immediately radioed for a medical to respond to the area and went and got his training officer, Officer May. Within seconds, Officer May responded to holding 1. He discovered the person to have hung themselves. Officer May was quick to remove the item around the neck and safely get the person to the floor. Officer May checked for a pulse, finding none, began CPR. The subject was revived and began breathing on his own. EMS took over when they arrived on scene, and the subject was taken to the hospital. That subject later returned that evening to the jail. Officer May and Officer Blair's quick response and actions saved this person's life. I would like to this time commend both of them. And if you will indulge me just a couple of minutes, I've brought a video of the incident. I think that it puts things in perspective for everyone. As everyone can see, this all happened within just a matter of a couple of minutes. And it takes very quick thinking to make the decisions that these two gentlemen made and save this man's life. And I'm very proud of both of them, as well as the rest of our correctional officers at Livingston County Jail. I greatly appreciate everyone's time. I appreciate the opportunity to come show how great our correctional officers are.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Superintendent Draper. And most of all, thank the correctional officers. We have a good staff, and I appreciate you showing the general public some of the things you go through day to day and the type of employees you have. Much appreciated. Let's move to presentation B, tire recycling program. Donnie Simmons, please.
Good evening. Once again, we'll be doing our tire collection recycling program. It will begin September 5th. We've already put out lots of information out on social media, the newspapers, letters out to all the townships, municipalities. Just kind of get, and the collection will last until September 27th. So individuals just need to call the health department to make appointments, and we'll take pretty much all tires, except for large farm equipment tires or OTR tires, and we'll take tires on or off the rim. Last year we collected 1,200 tires. The year before that we collected about 800 tires. So it's steadily growing as we do the program. We anticipate to do it again next year. These are funds that come from our, what we call our West Nile surveillance grant. So basically what we're trying to do is eliminate breeding sites for mosquitoes by eliminating tires out in the environment. So this is a great way for townships who see tires that accumulate in their ditches that are just dropped off to get rid of them. We also work out with the Livingston County Environmental Group. Every year they do a river cleanup, and they bring tires to the city of Pontiac, and then the city of Pontiac brings them to us. I think last year they collected about 30 tires from the river. So all in all, it's a great program. No county tax dollars go into it. It's totally state funded through a grant we get. So with that, I'll take any questions. We work cooperatively with the Livingston County Highway Department, but we do not want people just to drop off tires. They need to make an appointment with us to drop off the tires. Yes. Yes.
Mr. Simmons, that number is also on the website as well as directly to your office, is that correct?
Yeah, it's actually the direct phone line the phone number to my office is in all the press releases that we put out.
I would also like to say thank you for this commitment. It's an incredible opportunity for our communities to get rid of this material, not only to protect from West Nile virus and mosquitoes, but also to help our environment. My hat goes off. Thank you very much.
Where do the tires go, Dan?
We have a contract with a company out of Joliet that come down and pick up the tires and they recycle them. What they do is the rims that we collect, they scrap them, and then they grind up the tires and make them into other materials for different uses. So the tires are totally 100% recycled. None of them go to the landfill.
Not going to Kuwait, right?
Pardon me?
Not going to Kuwait?
No. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Donnie. Appreciate it. Good program. With that, there are no appearances. We'll move to the consent agenda, which has approval of the bills, appointments, except for B, which we've moved to the rules and regulation, and acceptance of a local government efficiency report. We can do this by a roll call vote.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Fannin, second by Ritter. So we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Vietti.
Yes.
Haig.
Yes.
Fair.
Yes.
Manker.
Yes.
Berkman.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Fannin.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Runyon.
Yes.
Weller.
Yes.
Bitstum.
Yes.
Blackard.
Yes.
Herring.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Harley.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move to the action agenda, committee reports. Up first will be Ag and Zoning Committee, Gerald Ehring, Chair.
Okay, tonight I have one case coming in front of us. It's SU-13-23 Prairie Dock Solar. And Jesse, would you like to take this, please?
Yep. Okay, so as Gerald said, this is zoning case SU-13-22. It's a request for a 300 megawatt solar farm on approximately 1,600 acres. When it was first applied for, the figure was around 2,000. It's been reduced back to 1,600 as of the ZBA hearing. The Planning Commission held a meeting on this in their December of 2022 meeting. There was a motion and a second to recommend denial, and that motion failed on a 4-2 vote with 1 abstain and 3 absent. Then the ZBA had 3 hearings on it and unanimously recommended approval 7-0. And then the Ag and Zoning Committee held a hearing on the matter at their August committee meeting, recommending approval with 1 no and 1 absent. And that's good, unless you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Jesse. Dr. Carly, you got something to say?
Are we going to have a brief explanation of this project? And if we do, I'm going to ask you to confine your explanation to less than 3 minutes, if you would, please.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Yes.
According to number 17 on page 9 of the Livingston County Standing Rules voted on by this body dated February 2023, any individual or group desiring to present an issue to the board shall submit a written proposal to the appropriate committee, and the committee shall meet with the individual or group and make a recommendation to the board if deemed appropriate. The appropriate committee to submit a written proposal on this case would have been at the Ag Zoning Committee, and at no time was a written proposal heard at the Ag Zoning meeting. There was, as Jesse stated, there was an RPC meeting, 3 ZBA hearings in April, May, and June. The ZBA closed this case in June and entered the findings of fact. No new evidence can be presented after the case was closed. The applicant has given all of us very nice three-ring binders of information and even mailing updates to our home addresses. This body has had over a month to consider this case. We should have all had a chance to read, listen, and even watch all of the evidence presented in this case, and since no new evidence can be presented, and since this is a violation of our standing rules, I ask this presentation not be heard.
I'm going to turn to our state's attorney. Mike, can you come up and clarify some things here, if you would, please?
Thank you, sir. It's consistent with Section 17 under board appearances that Ms. Fair read, as well as with how this board has acted in the past to allow a presentation today. Here we have a developer who has pressed this board for approval on their project. They've done so by submitting an application, going through the lengthy process that this county has set out for it, including several different subcommittee meetings, and including with the ZBA, as well as the RPC. So this matter is properly put forth by written application by the applicant to submit and appear today. And you can certainly allow Mr. Uphoff to engage in this discussion. And I think, Mr. Chairman, you indicated it'd be less than 3 minutes. And that would be consistent with the other comments on this development tonight.
Yes, and just, you know, there's not going to be any presentation. It's just going to be an explanation. And the board, and only the board, will be allowed to ask him any questions afterward.
Yeah, that's correct. I think it's important to note too, Ms. Fair is correct. This isn't an opportunity to introduce new evidence to the board. It's to, I think, briefly outline the evidence that has been already presented to the ZBA and also to the RPC as to the question as to whether or not this developer is properly before the board for an appearance. I think that's answered in the affirmative. They are both in accord with our standing rules approved by this board, Section 17, and also just with the past practice, which is an interpretation of those rules. I think that's consistent.
Thank you, Mr. Raver.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
That being said, let's proceed with the explanation. Remember your time limit. Thank you.
Good evening. A brief recap. The Prairie Dock Solar Project is a solar farm seeking to be sited on approximately 1,600 acres of some of the least productive ground in Livingston County, just east of Cutie. The project would generate enough electricity to power approximately 75,000 homes every year. It meets or exceeds every requirement of the ordinance, and your ZBA unanimously recommended that it be approved. The project is brought to you by Competitive Power Ventures, or CPV for short. CPV is a US-based developer and operator of power generation facilities across the nation. And they pride themselves on setting the gold standard for working with the communities where they build. For example, they built a $1.2 billion natural gas power plant in Grundy County. And the Grundy County Economic Development Director couldn't say enough good things about CPV, about how they worked with the local officials, about how they were true to their word, and about how they integrated themselves into the community. And now CPV wants to bring that gold standard of excellence to Livingston County. And they started off by choosing to proceed under your old ordinance developed in 2016. They could have reapplied after the new law came through, but they chose not to because they want to work with you on the standards that you set. And when it comes to those standards, particularly the residential setbacks, they have exceeded all the standards you previously put in place. And they have made multiple site plan adjustments to attempt to accommodate the neighbors. They're bringing to you a project that has enormous economic benefits for Livingston County. In addition to the hundreds of construction jobs for our local union members, this project also stands to bring a substantial amount of tax revenue. It's going to be bringing more than $20 million to Odell Grade School, more than $20 million to Pontiac High School, more than $9 million for this board's general fund, another $5 million for Pontiac Grade School, over $4 million for Odell Fire. The list goes on, but ultimately tallies up to over $71 million in tax revenue. And it also benefits the landowners, and it should because it's their land. And they should be able to utilize their land to its highest and best use as long as they are not negatively impacting their neighbors. And the ZBA unanimously determined that there was no evidence that this project would be injurious to the neighboring properties. So then why shouldn't these landowners be able to take this poor producing property and use it to generate greater income to support their families, while simultaneously generating electricity to go on our grid and generating benefits for our environment and generating a whole heap of economic benefits for the community at large. I think you have in front of you here an opportunity, a golden opportunity, to partner with a gold standard company that wants to partner with you to allow these landowners to make the best use of their land and to allow the citizens of Livingston County to reap the many economic benefits that would come from this project. And all you have to do to seize upon that golden opportunity is to follow the evidence and follow your ordinance. So with that, on behalf of the landowners, on behalf of CPV, and on behalf of the many people in this community who do support this project, I respectfully request...
That's your time, Seth.
I respectfully request...
Kyle, sit down. I just told him his time was up. Please sit down. So are two other people. Sit down, Kyle. Kyle, sit down.
I respectfully request this board grant a special use permit for the Prairie Dock Solar Project. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Seth? No, not from the audience, the board only. Thank you. I mentioned that earlier.
No questions from the board? Motion to approve by hearing?
Second by Laura.
Discussion? Becca?
Earlier this week, I had some questions about what was presented at the Ag and Zoning Committee last week, so I requested the audio so I could review some of the evidence that was presented. After listening to the audio, I noticed that when the motion was made for this case, it was just to send it to the county board and no recommendation to the county board was made in the motion. I only bring this up to correct the record and for no other reason, and that ends my discussion.
Anybody else? A motion to approve has been done, a second has been done. Elena, can we have roll call, please? Christie, excuse me.
Vietti.
Yes.
Haig.
Yes.
Fair.
No.
Manker.
No.
Berkman.
No.
Ambrose.
No.
Bannon.
No.
Myers.
Yes.
Runyon.
Yes.
Weller.
Yes.
Bitstam.
Yes.
Blackard.
Yes.
Airing.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Twelve ayes and 5 nays. The motion passes.
Thank you, Christie. I'm done with my report, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Ehring. We'll now move to Highway. Steve Lovell, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've got just a few small items tonight. Clay couldn't make it. We've got a resolution for a cost-sharing agreement in Epperts Point Road District. And then we've also got a bridge petition for Owego Road District, $50,000 to replace culverts. So with that, is there any questions on them? If not, I make a motion that we pass both of them together.
Second.
Second by
Mr.
Blackard.
With no questions, let's call the roll, please.
Vietti.
Yes.
Haig.
Yes.
Fair.
Yes.
Manker.
Yes.
Berkman.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Bannon.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Runyon.
Yes.
Weller. Yes. Bitstam.
Yes.
Blackard.
Yes.
Airing.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Carly.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
And I've got one other item. We're progressing on the building. We're hoping for October 1st for a completion date, but we're meeting with the architect and the builder tomorrow, so we should know more. Just trying to get odds and ends finished. It's a hassle, so, but it's moving along good, so. Thank you. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Lovell. I'd like to move to Finance Committee. Marty Fannin, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are knee-deep in budget season, and to say that I think we've hashed out the biggest part of it, and kudos to the finance team and the admin team and to the finance committee for really stepping up and making some tough decisions and getting us through this. So looks good. We'll be bringing something next month.
Thank you, Chairman Fannin. Appreciate your work. We'll move to Sheriff, Jail, and License Committee. Bob Weller, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on our usual meeting date. The sheriff presented some additional appropriations requests, which of course we forwarded on to Finance for their perusal. He gave his monthly department reports, the animal control report, proactive report. We did have a raffle license approved for Futures Unlimited, and it's hard for me to come from behind the sheriff's presentation earlier tonight. That was the big news of the month, I would say. Housing report, currently we've got like 77 local and 92 others out of county residents at our local facility. And everything is running smoothly as usual, and I thank the department and their employees for the great job they're doing.
Thank you, Chairman Weller. We'll now move to Public Property. John Bitstam, Chair.
So far, I think things have been going pretty good with our public property. The sheriff had a hot water issue that I think they've got it under control. We thought it might be a bigger problem than what it was. But outside of that, I can't think of anything else. Can you, Alina? That should end my report.
Thank you, Chairman Bitstam. We'll now move to Rules, Legislation, Veterans and Community Service Committee. Jack Beatty, Chair. And remind you, Jack, we will have a a action item under there.
Thank you, Chairman. So what we'll do, we will have a motion for, we'll do Clark Reamer for Mental Health Board, and we'll drop down Parnell Kennedy for Odell Fire District, Andrew Avery.
No, we don't have to do that. We only have to do the one.
The one,
Just
okay,
be-
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
For the RPC. Excuse me, Marvin Hilty. I need a motion, and then we'll go from there.
So moved.
So moved by Haig, seconded by Mr.
Ritter.
Okay, and we'll have a, you want a roll call on that then, instead of,
Is there going to be any discussion?
or you want to have any discussion on it first? Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, Linda.
I will be voting no on this because after doing some research, I believe Mr. Hilty has turbines on his land. Some of our biggest cases coming up are solar and wind power, and I think we should just not put somebody on there who has a financial stake in the game already on these items. We do have one person who has a solar farm and so then has to recuse themselves all the time. And I just don't think we need to be appointing somebody that has an obvious financial conflict of interest.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. Any other public comment from the board? Go ahead, Jerry.
I think since that guy has got solar or wind on his farms, I guess, like, can he excuse himself like anybody else, like the other person that's on that board? I mean, is there some...
Right, but I just didn't think, we need to appoint someone that has an obvious conflict.
Oh, should we do a roll call then? Let's do it by a roll call on that. How would you do it? Do by a roll call, please. Thank you.
Bietti.
Yes.
Egg.
Yes.
Bear.
No.
Manker.
No.
Barrickman.
Abstain.
Ambrose.
No.
Bannon.
Yes.
Myers.
No.
Runyon.
No.
Weller.
Yes.
Fitstum.
Abstain.
Blackard.
Yes.
Herring.
Yes.
Welch.
No.
Carly.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
And Ritter.
No.
So just for clarification purposes, I was going to say before, as part of the discussion, so what happens when you have a conflict of interest is you have a direct pecuniary interest in the project itself. There could be members on this board that have a wind farm, or there could be people on the opposite side who have also are 100% opposed and they would never do it. Having a wind farm or a solar farm does not create a conflict for every future project. It's whether or not you have a financial interest or someone you are directly related to has a direct, not just, meaning not just that's your uncle or something like that. It means that you stand to benefit financially from the project itself. Not any project, but this particular project that is in front of you to vote. So even if Mr. Hildy was appointed to the board and he has a wind farm, that does not mean he has a conflict of interest, nor does it mean that he has to abstain from those votes.
Thank you. How was it, Christie? How was the vote?
8 ayes, 7 nays, 1 absent, and 2 abstains. It passed.
Okay, thank you very much. Also at our meeting, we had Mike here from our Veterans Committee, and Mike announced that our Veterans Day program will be on November 12th, correct, Mike? And you can add, Mike, you want to step to the microphone and add to this? Mike is our Veterans gentleman on the... I'll let him have the floor for a few minutes. Go ahead. Well, thank you, Mike. You did a terrific job last year. Thank you very much. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Vietti. I'd like to go back. Actually, that did not pass because of the 2 abstentions. So I would like to also say we were given some misinformation, as we've now heard after the fact. And I'm going to entertain is to see if someone would like to change their vote based on what you've now heard. I do want to say one other thing. This RPC has been short 3 or 4 members for about 10 years now. And I was trying to fill some of the positions with people that I knew were local residents that are reliable people. We did one last month, and I was trying to do another one this month. I was trying to get it up to the full number that it's supposed to have, because if you go to any of the meetings, a lot of times not all the members are there. So that was my total intent. Unfortunately, if you don't want to change your vote, then this person will be denied. But if somebody wants to change their vote based on what we've heard from Alina, realizing that what we had heard before is not correct. Okay, so let me see if anybody wants to say anything. Yes, Becca.
I do agree with what Alina said. However, I have seen contracts that they have to support all solar, not just the projects that they're involved with. So we can't see, nor do we ask the state's attorney or anybody else. It's none of our business what is in their contract. It's between them and a company. But I have seen contracts where they have to support either all wind if they are in a wind contract, or all solar if they have a solar contract. There's no way for us to even know that if they are on the RPC.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with anything like that, so.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say at this moment, or do we just move on?
Are we to believe that Member Fair knows that Mr. Hilke has these contracts that she speaks of?
I never mentioned why I voted no for Mr. Hilty.
You're talking about language in contracts.
That is not what I said. I said, I was talking about Alina's comment, which is true, but there are contracts, and in the contract between the landowner and the developer, it is said they are to support all wind or all solar, not just their project.
Correct, but I'm asking you whether you know that he has such contracts.
I do not, no.
Thank you.
And nobody will know it because they don't have to show us their contracts as board members.
Any other comments?
Well, I want to ask a question. So,
Mr. Aaron.
Does this mean that we cannot add to this group of people now because they could have something?
You have 3 vacancies on the RPC.
Yes.
The vacancies are to be appointed by the chairman of the board with the consent of this public body. I don't know how you're going to go about determining whether or not you feel someone has a conflict or doesn't have a conflict. I think just like this board, you can't compel someone to not vote for something, but board members, should they have a direct pecuniary interest, should abstain from things like that, which I would assume that other members would do as well, in good conscience.
Thank you.
Does that conclude your report then, Jack?
That does complete my report, sir. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. And we'll move on to Admin Committee, which I'm the chair. Well, I just have 2 things to talk about. We discussed public comment at that meeting, and I'm going to choose to stick by the standing rules that we have for time frames, things like that. Unless it's a big project, then we may move it up in the agenda as we did tonight. We won't do that always, but if there's enough of a project that I feel that enough people want to speak, then we will move that ahead on the agenda, likely. There's also training for zoning that's coming up by Attorney Andrew Kite, the County Board Attorney from Peoria area, and he's going to be doing that on August 21st and 22nd. It's for all board members, not just new board members, ZBA, RPC, and the public is welcome to come, but I think it's going to be a very enlightening thing in explaining some of the, I guess, the rules and regulations of, that we have to know as far as zoning goes and how we should appropriately address the ordinance and things like that. So that's coming up here. I think it's posted on our website, if I'm not mistaken. Timeframes, I think, with the 21st, it starts at, that one's at 5. Excuse me.
They're all at 5, 6, and 7.
Right.
So the first day is county board at 5, planning commission at 6, and ZBA at 7. And the second day, the county board is at 7, and when you're planning to attend them all, they kind of blend together.
Thank you, ladies, for advising us of that. That concludes my report, so we'll move, Linda.
The public is welcome to come to any of them, correct? They can come to the county board one, they can come to the they can come to any of them.
Yes, that's what we said. Yes, you're right. Anything else? In that case, we'll move to Information Technology Committee, Jingle Maker Chair.
Okay, we met last week, and these are the things that we went over: the downtown camera system between this building and the new Law and Justice Center. The cameras are not going to be supported anymore by what we have. John Sear has been looking into replacing those, and this was put on the capital budget request. We also did a couple other budget requests for some other things. We have replaced the virtual servers, and we did purchase some more equipment for those too. The switches, jail door system. John Sear and Superintendent Draper will be traveling to Indianapolis next month to take a look at that door system. And our work will begin at our jail on October 2nd. And during the week or so that they are working on that, they will only have key access. That's it.
Just to jump in there, Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes, go ahead.
On the downtown camera project, the Finance Committee put that on the plan for next year's capital. We have the software, so if something goes on, we've got the software to reinstall. So it's not an oh my gosh, but we do have that on the plan for next year.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fanning. Okay, in that case, we're down to skipping over public comment, which we've already done. We have executive session.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Pursuant to. I'll second that.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? We'll have a roll call, please.
Betty. Hegg.
Here.
Fair.
Yes.
Manker.
Yes.
Bergman.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Here, how do you?
Bannon.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Runyon.
Yes.
Willer. Pittston. Blackard. Herring.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Harley.
Yes.
Lovell.
Yes.
Pinritter.
Yes.
Amen.
Okay, clear the room, then we'll go into executive session.